Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cannonball iRacing series here at Daytona. Should be getting on for a great race. Qualifying is done, the race is about to start, so let's go over your grid. Maurice Gomillion put it on the pole with a 48.54. Did one hell of a job by beating out Benjamin for topping out the top row there as well. Brady getting third. Brennan going fourth, Jonathan going fifth, Rooster going sixth place, Jake Hall in seventh with a 48.6. Merrick, that's going to be the guy to watch tonight, as he usually runs pretty good towards the front, so we'll see how he gets on as well. Kyle in ninth, Michael in 10th, Jack in 11th, James back in third. In row 6 back in 12th. Nicholas in 13th, Tony in 14th, Jacob in 15th, Scott in 16th, and rounding it off with Tyler in 17th place. So it's going to be long. It's going to be 100 laps here at Daytona. So it's going to come down to who's going to be the most patient, who's going to push it hard. But I do think they're going to keep it relatively calm for the most part. I think, with 100 laps, you have to take it very easy and whatnot, but we'll see. It's going to be a little bit of a cycle to see how this goes on, but it feels great to be back in the booth as well. Hope you all enjoy this. It's going to be fun. Some new people here as well, so some names I don't remember seeing before. We always have the usual bunch of people in here too, so it's going to be fun, it's going to be wild, and the Gen 4 cars as well, so it's going to be fast. Expect to be in the 200 miles an hour by the time they get down into the corners. It's going to be a little bit tricky too with how the bump drafting works with these cars, because it's not flat. It is a little bit acute when it comes to the bumpers. So we'll see how aggressive they will be on the bump drafting here. So, should be fun, should be wild. It's been a while since I've seen a race with the Gen 4 cars as well, so it's going to be very interesting, especially with how bumpy it can get as well. This is the old configuration of Daytona as well, so the bottom is very bumpy. The top is going to be a lot smoother, so you might see a lot of people be up there in the top groove more often than the bottom, just because it's a lot smoother, it's a lot easier to control the car, because with how bumpy it is on the bottom, there's a chance for you to wash up and hit the people above you if you're not being careful. So there's going to be a lot of trust between these guys on how close they're willing to drive close to each other. So should be interesting, going to be fun, and we're about to hit that green flag as a pace car is about to dive off to the infield. They're about to come to the green flag. As we see Maurice and Brady start to pull out to lead, got a 3-car breakaway as we see some starting to move around now. Now everyone's just got to settle in. Ooh, that's the one thing you do got to watch, because if you hit someone a little bit too hard, you'll start getting them all squiggly, and it's kind of just there along for the ride. But you will start to see people come up, drop back, come up, drop back. So it's really kind of at a spot where you kind of have to settle in a little bit. But we see Brady start to go down the bottom and start to go out to the front now. With a good push from Jake Hall too. And as this race goes along, you're really going to see at the beginning they might not be as aggressive with the bump drafting, because you'll see this a couple times. As you hit the bumper, you kind of springboard that person to shoot out in front of you. We see a car go down to the apron there. That looks like Jake Hall, who has said, "I've had enough of this being up front," and decides to go to the back. But you can definitely see that preferred line is going to be that outside line just below that hash mark up there. So it's going to be interesting to see how often that's going to be. But we can see now definitely the top line is definitely starting to form a lot better. You know, let's actually go on to Brady. Like, one thing I do want to see is how aggressive the old style is. You can just see how bumpy it is right there, and just even though despite it being bumping, if you look at how smooth their wheel are as well inside the car, but you're gonna see how bumpy it is on the bottom. That's one thing when Dale Earnhardt Sr., whenever he did the IMSA Rolex 24 Hours in the GT cars, he was actually knew where the bumps were, and he actually made up a lot more time during the Rolex 24s that he took part in. So you can actually tell like how much baking there is. This how bumpy it is on the bottom. But last time around we saw how bumpy it was. But you're gonna see Brady's keeping it very smooth despite how bumpy it is. So he's doing a very good job keeping his car down there, but we're still 2x2 all the way back. And one thing you will see a lot of too is people are probably going to be jumping up and down from the top to the bottom. But as you tell, a lot of the time it's just going to see who do you trust the most would go through, as we see Jack starting to go up to the front now too. But that's one thing with these, you know, super speedway races is you're going to have a lot of people who kind of cycle to the front, cycle back. So it's a lot of revolving door of who's going to be out there at the front. But it's nice to see that, you know, we're staying calm. Still, everyone prefers to be on that outside. Yeah, you just see right there that Jack is kind of just slipped up a little bit, sliding up the track a little bit in that corner too. You will have to pay attention to see who does that and who do you trust around. You see Merrick start to hop to the outside. We're starting to separate out. That's one thing that they are doing well here, is that they are spreading it out a little bit, not getting too crammed together. They are definitely giving each other space, which is nice. That's definitely too early to start pushing too much now. But you're going to see like how tight you have to be on someone. But now as you see, a lot more people are starting to go through the bottom now. Ooh. James got this. Filtered himself right in front of Maurice, but still made it work. You just see the momentum that you get from James, how he was able to go up there. You can see that bump from Kyle to Jack. This kind of just shot him up a little bit. You can see that accordion effect right there. You use someone else's energy to promote you forward, and that's really going to be key towards the end of this race on who's going to be the most aggressive and willing to put their car in certain situations. But so far we've been pretty clean. Nothing too crazy. A lot of people are giving each other space, and this is definitely what you saw like in real life too, when they were driving, you know, this generation of cars. They were able to keep distances between each other but still keep pretty good speed. Definitely not like the cars of today where it's all about, you know, the runs and trying to push the crap out of someone. But you're gonna see how you can just use your bumper. You don't have to slam them, you just got to give them a very small tap. You see Brady go down the bottom to try to give him a little bit more air so James can cool down. But you're gonna see how bumpy it is on the bottom out there. Oh man, like Jack almost washed up into James there, but was able to keep it down the bottom. Now you can tell it's starting to ramp up a little bit, even though we're only on lap 8, now we're starting lap 9, so it's really going to be interesting to see it. You also see certain people like to be up towards the front, and then like as the race goes along, the people who may have stayed in the back trying to keep their car clean maybe start to work their way up to the front, but some people maybe want to peek out their nose, get a little bit of clean air on there. You see now Scott moves from the bottom to the top. Ooh, James got really close to the top up there, but still keeping it clean. That's one thing with the Cannonball iRacing series. They do a pretty good job of keeping it clean. Long green flag runs, so really excited to see how this plays out. And with the long green flag runs, how is the fuel strategy going to come into effect? Who's going to pit with who? Who are you going to call your friends for the rest of this race? You can kind of see Brady and Jack on the bottom trying to keep their cars there, but you're going to see how much the bottom kind of slides up. So it's really going to be trusting that your person above you is not going to come too far down and kind of slide draft you there. But overall, so far, these guys are really starting to keep it clean. You can see some people start to not really sure what line they want to be a part of. They're kind of going from the top to the bottom, or the bottom to the top. So it's understanding who's around you, who do you trust, and we see Merrick start to go down to the bottom too. It's kind of like when you go through the toll booth. You know, you hope that the line you pick is going to the front, and you kind of cycle up there. But when this, it's kind of hard with the very little amount of people, and especially the old style of these cars bring. It's kind of hard to get those runs and try to get yourself up there. But I mean, still on only lap 12 of 100, I think, you know, it's still that time where you still got to take it easy, relax. I think the last 20 laps, I think you're really going to see the hard pushing. You're really just going from there. But right now, all that they really got to do is just kind of just sit pretty and just go from there, and just hope that nothing too crazy happens. But right now, you're just riding, you're just chilling, you're kind of just floating. Yeah, no one has really fallen off so far. They all stayed pretty clean. They've all stayed together. That's kind of what you expect in a super speedway. As we see Jack really start to slide up. He definitely hit a flat spot, almost like he skated, like just lost all tracks and then floated to the top. So that's going to be interesting. As the tires wear off, it's going to be interesting to see if that plays a more dramatical fashion with people sliding up or not. But I know it's hard when you're directly behind the car, because you can't even go to Jack and see like how it looks from his cockpit view. Like you can see a lot, but you're gonna see how the car just kind of just wiggles around. But you don't really see him moving the wheel as much. But like, ooh, as he seemed to get up, and you can see Merrick start to go as Merrick goes 3 wide through the middle. We see James going with Merrick, and Merrick wants to lead as we see Jack get up into the middle of the wall. And you see just how much momentum he loses, and right now he's just hoping that someone kind of grabs onto him, and hopefully he can hold on to this draft. But it looks like he might just slip out. Hopefully he can just hold on to Jack Hall, and hopefully he can just hold on to there to the rear. But Merrick, what a move going through the middle all the way out to the front. Kind of just pulled that outside with him. And now he's just sitting pretty up there on the top. see the bottom lane kind of held its own there, but now the bottom lane is kind of, oh boy. As you see Rooster now get up into the wall too, and now he loses all his momentum. I don't think he's going to have enough speed to keep up. But see now, oh no, Jack. Kind of saw that off screen there a little bit, but that not really sure what happened there. I say we're gonna take a sneak peek at what happened there. Not really sure what happened. What it looked like it happened from Jack, kind of like accordion effect of kind of just got through it. He kind of just got in the back of him, and it kind of just all slammed together. But yeah, you definitely hate to see it. But overall, I think we'll get through it. But as we go back to the live scenes of Merrick's kind of just holding his own out there, but Brady really just holding on to his own down there all by himself, kind of using that side draft to keep Merrick right next to him. As Brady's really hoping that he can get some help from Kyle down there at the bottom to try to get himself back up to the front, but you can definitely see just how aggressive you have to be sometimes. But I'm surprised there wasn't a caution, but so far we're still green. That's simply going to spread up the field a little bit, kind of thins out the group up here, but you're going to see everyone on that preferred line on the outside. Yeah, you are going to burn a little bit more fuel up there, but it's a lot more smoother. You see that bottom line now getting an extra person down there for 3. You see you didn't see how aggressive Brady is kind of trying to push him out there in the front. So you see how much closer Brady was following the person that was in front of him through the triangle. Now that got lap traffic, ooh boy, that was dangerous. But ooh, I had to hold my breath there. Nicholas almost slid up in front of the whole entire field, but we kept it together. No one's hurt, so now everyone can take a deep breath from here on out. One thing I have noticed is Brady is not afraid to stay down there at the bottom. Now with those 2 cars, they are keeping and holding their own against, a whole group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. 2, 4. Yeah, so 8 cars on the outside, 2 cars on the bottom. Overall, I mean, it's been pretty good so far. Yeah, a little few incidents here and there, but if you're up in this lead and you're towards the front, you kind of just sit holding pretty. Like if you're someone like Benjamin who's in the back of this pack, you're kind of just riding as well. So I think everyone's going to ride out and see how the next pit stop, the first pit stop, should be pretty interesting to see who goes with who and how, if they call it out or not. So should be interesting and fun to watch and see. But I mean, you're seeing a lot of people still prefer that outside lane, which is always nice to see. Merrick now drop to the bottom. Even he kind of sliding up a little bit too. So now we see Brady kind of using that draft getting below Merrick, starting, you know, he wants to, it's a sniff of the lead as Brady leads that lap. Oh, he tries to slide up in front of him. Merrick says, no way. I will say this too, with these cars, the last time I drove them, they were quite the handful the last time I drove them. And they're not easy to drive, but they're not hard to drive either. So it's really just trying to maintain the power to see that how far back the groups are when they all had that incident. But overall, it's been pretty clean and pretty tame. See, Brady's not content to stay behind someone. He wants to be in front of people as he forces it 3 wide through the triangle. Oh, there's a little bit of contact there. But Brady's definitely aggressive. He does not want to be behind someone. He wants to be leading the line. As we see, ooh, he tries to come up in front of Merrick. Scott was almost there when he's trying to get in front of Merrick, but Merrick was like, no, thank you, sir. So we see Brady still trying to force his way, still wanted to be the leader on that front of the bottom lane, does not want to be behind someone. See Kyle kind of slide up there. That's what I said in the beginning of the race, how that bottom line, if you're not careful, you hit those bumps wrong, you can slide up to the top of the racetrack and you can potentially scuff up a little bit with the guys above you. But overall, it's been a pretty relaxing, safe race. Yeah, a couple of close calls, but it's been pretty tame for the most part. A lot of, some aggressive moves, but they haven't been super aggressive where it's kind of caused people to, freak out a little bit. But as you see here, the bump given to Brady kind of gives him a little bit, but not as much as I was expecting. That was a very soft touch, but that's going to be the huge key, is can you get those runs at the right time at the right place. So as you see, a huge run from Brady through the bottom, kind of get us a little bit wiggly off the bottom there. He must have hit a bump wrong, but Merrick kind of holding his own with that top lane, kind of just maintaining. You can see the gap between a lot of people. There's a pretty good gap between a lot of people, and that's one thing that most of the time you're going to see those gaps at this time of the race. As the race goes on and it kind of gets to a point where people are going to start pushing, that's when you notice people are going to maybe make too aggressive of plays and maybe bump someone the wrong way. But right now, everybody's being clean, respectful. See Scott and Merrick, oh, they touch a little bit. But overall, 3 wide, making it work. These cars are definitely a little bit smaller than the next-gen cars, so you can make it work a lot better than they can with the other ones. But overall, still keeping it clean. That is one thing that's been pretty impressive too, is how well a single car has been able to work with, a group of cars. Like you've seen Brady and I think it was Scott, or was it Kyle on the bottom? They were just keeping on the bottom, just working their way, and just holding on to 2-car tandem versus the 8 cars on the top. So see Brady not content to stay behind someone, even though he has a little bit of damage on the right front, but it's not too terrible. It shouldn't affect him too much, as he's still being able to hold it on that bottom line. Those for you viewing in. Thank you so much for viewing in. Really looking forward to this season, as it should be quite a fun adventure to see how well these guys are able to drive the Gen 4 cars. For the whole season, we see Jack kind of holding it on the aprons, keeping it out of the way of the group. We see Tony shooting out to the lead too. This is the first time he's been up here to the front. He's been hanging out in the back of the pack, in that lead pack, for most of that run. He now says, "I want a bit of that front end." You see him going out. Very interesting paint scheme too. I know there's a movie out for the monkey, but hopefully it doesn't cause as much drama as it does in the movie. So for everyone keeping it clean for the most part, Merrick's been pretty much the top most of the race, and he's been leading that top line. So he's just riding, relaxing, enjoying the views. For the most part, see Brady finally leaves the bottom and goes up in front of Merrick to kind of lead that outside line. Those are going to be the two that you really have to watch out for. If those two get hooked up, they could be the two that could potentially be at the top towards in this race. But with the super speedways, anyone at any time, you see Merrick kind of dive down to the bottom. He says, "No, thank you. I want to be at the front." You see, it definitely has gotten a little bit more aggressive. You see how tight Brady, trusting Merrick, how tight he is getting down to Merrick, trying to side draft the side of him, try to pull him back into him, try to surge ahead. But you're going to see just how strong and how close the bottom three are next to each other. You see how much closer they are running versus what they were before. So it should be interesting to see if green flag pit stops are coming soon. You can see that maybe it might be getting to that point, because people are definitely getting a lot more aggressive. Especially now that we're working lap 31, we are just about a third of the way through the race, and it's been pretty clean up here towards the front. No one's really made any mistakes except for the few run-ins we had a little bit at the beginning, but kind of separated everything down. Everyone's got their nerves out of the way, kind of settled down. No one's trying to really be super aggressive. Yeah, they're kind of getting a little bit more aggressive on like how close they're running to each other, how much they're bumping each other. But overall, you can definitely see the intensity is maybe picking up a little bit towards the front now that it's Brady versus Merrick. You definitely see Tony's really getting very close to Merrick, kind of pushing him out, kind of keeping him in front of Brady, to where now Merrick has a decision. Does he stay, or does he start to slide up to the top? That's kind of what I thought maybe he was going for. Then we'll see, because I know, Brady's not a fan of staying behind someone, so we'll see if he decides to make a move, or Merrick now just goes straight down to the bottom. This is one thing that you are able to do when you're out there in the front of a group. If there is a little bit of gap, you can decide on which group you want to stay in front of, and Merrick has been doing a very good job kind of sticking to where you want to, as you see Brady start to drop back a little bit. Oh, kind of gets up in the end of the wall. But doesn't lose too much. Yeah, he kind of drops it back, but he did not lose as momentum as the guys before. So he's able to, I think that's Maurice. Yeah, Maurice was be able to pick him up, and kind of those two will get straight up to the back, to the front pretty quickly. As we're working on the lap 35, it's going to come down to who can get the right person at the right time. And now Merrick has dropped down to the bottom. He's been pretty stable up there on the top, and now he's gone back down to the bottom. Starting to see a little bit more of a drive for people to be down towards the bottom. As I say that, they kind of even out, and there's the same amount of cars at the top as there in the bottom. It's been relatively, most people have been at the top, so it's going to be interesting to see which lane do you want to be at the end of the race. I think this is where a lot of people are trying to figure that out. Who do they want to be around them? What lane do they want to be at the right time? And so far, I can't tell you. It's hard to pick between one line or the other. Most of the time, when it's this configuration, the old Daytona with how bumpy it is on the bottom, you can get a pretty good run there on the top. But everyone seems to be kind of bouncing between the two, so it's really hard to determine what line to be at what time. Oh, here we go. Kind of just to see who gets down to it. Slides down. Oh, Brady gets into watchboard. Oh my goodness. Calamity in pit road. Let's see if that jumbles people up or not. As you see Merrick now get into his box. Kind of everyone in that group came in at the same time, which is quite interesting. Usually sometimes people want to stay out, kind of get themselves separated, maybe not have so many people come in and kind of jumble up everyone. You see some people getting out, jumping out rather quickly, as we see Kyle, Brennan, and who is that behind? I think that's Maurice. Were able to get out, but they're kind of separated, so it's going to be interesting to see. So they're coming out of pit road, or coming off the apron, back on the track on the backstretch right now. America's in the middle of turn 1 and 2. There's not really a whole lot of like gap. Like you can still see like Maurice is right there, but as they are getting back up to speed, I want to go back and kind of see what happened to Brady there. Maybe he kind of gone off, maybe didn't quite know his braking point, but we're actually going to ride on board and to see like what exactly happened. But as they come off of, you kind of see checking up a little bit, he kind of gets off. Yeah, just completely, he misses it, tries to locks it up, gets into the back of Merrick, and just, you hate to see it. Almost go to like Merrick, and you kind of just watch, and like you already know what's going to happen. You just kind of to see everyone kind of dive off in the pits. You can. Tony got a really good entry, held it down. But you're gonna see Brady is kind of just, oh no. Able to. At least everyone else was able to, you know, kind of get back into it. But now as that is going on, now it's a little bit more spread out. As you can see, Maurice is kind of out a little bit, but it's not too bad. go to the cars in front of him, Kyle and Brennan got in and out of the pits very well. So they're kind of just riding along with first place right now. So obviously them two should be able to kind of bust out a gap too, but with Maurice, Benjamin, and Scott, 3 cars versus 2 is going to be much better, so that I fully expect them to catch up. And then you have Merrick, who's kind of in the draft. He might be able to catch up to them, he might not, but it's going to be hard for him to catch. You're going to see how far away those cars are ahead of him. But it's quite surprising. You never know, because I've seen stranger things than I have before. But he's definitely carrying a lot more speed than the other 3 cars ahead of him, so I fully expect maybe Merrick might be able to catch them, but it's going to be interesting to see how close, how fast can this 3-car group catch up to the 2-car group. Oh, they actually got another person to hang out with them. Tony, who went a lap down because he did speed in the pits. I kind of noticed how he was going a little bit faster than Merrick, so he definitely got his speeding. So he's hooked up to the top 2. Now this is a 3 versus 3 pack, so it's going to be see who can have the better drafting techniques. Who's willing to maybe push a little bit harder. Because you can see they're having a pretty good gap between them. But even these two, they've kind of dropped off a little bit. As we see Scott kind of dropped off a little bit to give Merrick a little bit of help. So once you get Merrick to help and get a part of that group, I fully expect this 4-car group to catch up to them very quickly. Yeah, we kind of see them just kind of allowing Merrick to catch up, so now they have a bigger pack than the ones in front of them. I haven't noticed a huge decrease in the gap between the guys up front and them, so going to be interesting to see who is able to have, again, the better technique and who can draft the best, who's willing to kind of keep their car the closest, as we see Merrick really pushing Scott and really just kind of just going with the flow. Yeah, let's see if we can ride along and just see like how close. So he's just really just bumping, kind of getting as close as he can. One thing with Merrick is you kind of want another car behind you to help you keep that distance. We get to see kind of drifting off a little bit. Maurice got to get a little bit closer to Merrick for them to be able to get better positioning and able to allow Merrick to constantly be stuck to the back of Scott's car. You can see the gap between the lead group, Brennan and Kyle. They're entering 3 now, and then are now entering 3 now. So there's not a huge gap, but there is a big enough gap to make a difference. You can just see, they can see them out in the distance, but again, Merrick is going to really kind of have to push hard to get them close. Now they are a 4-car group, so they definitely have a bigger draft advantage than the ones in front of them. And you can just see that the lead group is not stuck up being right behind each other, so they're not drafting as well as the pack in the back. Definitely a lot tighter, so they're able to utilize the draft a bit better. You're going to see the speed goes up to 198, 199, 200 miles an hour going into turn 3. That's when you know Merrick is really driving hard, really pushing. That group is really staying tight, and the tighter you are as a group, the faster you go. We see this group that's in front of them went 195, went 197, so 2 miles an hour faster into turn one. That's why they're starting to gain a little bit harder. They have actually gone to the outside with that lead group. They're definitely staying more on the bottom. You can just see just how much faster that second group is than that first group. Only went 196, they went 199, 3 miles an hour faster into that corner. So they are really pushing very hard, trying to catch up. There's no matter. They are very, very close, and you can just tell that they're really wanting to catch that top group. Again, this second group has consistently got to 199 or 200 miles an hour going into turn 3. So they are definitely doing a lot better of drafting, using each other. So that lead group is starting to get a bit better because now they have that draft of the lead of the lap cars in front of them, so they're able to draft a little bit better. They're getting the corner at 199, almost 200, where the second group only got to 196 that time. Now those lap cars kind of got out of the way for that lead group. So now as Jack and Jonathan kind of just hold on to the back of that group, that actually kind of gives a little bit, if they can get to that lead group, they can add a little bit more value to the lead group, kind of keep that second group at bay, but they're kind of drifting off, kind of allowing the leaders to have their own way. But if they can get up and kind of help that lead group to get more organized, they can kind of maintain that gap back to Merrick, and you can actually now start to see them. But that lead group, if they get more organized, so they do have more cars than them. They have they have 5 cars versus 4. But it's still going to be really tight and a little bit of a struggle for them. But if they can sniff that draft from that lead group, they'll be able to pull right in. You can just see they're not much further, so they're relatively pretty close. Let's go from lap 49 on to 50. We're just about halfway through this race, and things are starting to heat up. Now, they pitted around the lap 40-ish, around there. So I know they can go to late 70s, possibly even 80, lap 80-ish if they want to. But with them being a little bit more aggressive, they might burn a little more fuel. So we're probably going to expect them to pit within 20 to 30 laps to go and go to the finish if it stays green for the whole rest of the race. We see this front group kind of starting to get a little bit more wiggly, where this second group is still staying relatively right behind each other. We see a huge, and they are there. They have now sniffed the draft. They are there. Now, this group has got there's definitely going to use that momentum to go to the high side. Now, this is definitely a lot. Now it's like, who do you go with? Obviously, Merrick has shown that he is a very good pusher, being able to push people. But I know Merrick, and Merrick does not want to be stuck behind someone. So he's definitely going to try to work his way to the front, trying to control the lanes. But if you're someone who wants someone behind you, you definitely want that 91 behind you. We see that second group has finally got up to now. They are taking the lead. Scott puts his car out front with the help of Merrick. Now that Merrick is through, does he shoot to the bottom? There's no, a little bit of tap there from Kyle in the left rear of Merrick. He's able to hold it steady, still going straight. See how close Merrick is staying attached to the bumper of Scott. He was able to drive away from people. Hopefully you all have enjoyed this race as much as I had so far. It's been pretty relatively smooth. Not too many situations. A couple of incidents at the beginning where people kind of rubbed into each other, rubbed the wall. With that one incident that took out Brady in the pit road where he kind of misjudged his braking point and slammed the rear of Merrick. That took out one major contender who was always up at the front. Brady never really wanted to be stuck behind anyone. Now he is out of the race. He has parked it behind the wall. Now you see everyone kind of just riding around that top lane. Kind of everyone is settling in. We've still got, 45, 44 laps to go. Still a lot of racing left to go. We still have our last final pit stops left to go as well. So with that jumbled mess of the first pit stops, it's going to be interesting to see who is going to go with what. Do they all come together again? Do they all separate out? As you see Merrick start to shoot down to the bottom. He's tired of sitting behind Scott and he wants to go out to the lead. See all that commotion allowed Kyle to get really good momentum on the bottom. Now he shoots out to lead. And now hops up in front of Merrick because he knows how good of a pusher, and he's second guesses that Merrick did not want to be pushing him, and he kind of just slid up to the more to the top, and that kind of let Kyle know that he needs to go back to the bottom. He's barely got back down in front of John. And as we're driving along and going through this, we're going to shout out a few sponsors as well. One of the sponsors of the race is also Twiggy, Innovation in Motion, Quantum Security Alliance, I hope I say this correctly, but Orsa Sama Racing Graphics, and MAG Real Estate San Antonio. Thank you for sponsoring. And yeah, it's been pretty good so far. So far, everyone's keeping kind of clean. They're all relatively staying in one line for the most part. And everyone is riding around in the upper mid lanes at the moment. Merrick is kind of just riding along. You see some cars that are going to lap down out there in front. But overall, it's been a pretty good. But I'm still waiting to see when is everyone going to make their final pit stops. Are we going to come as a group again, or are you going to kind of spread it out? Who do you trust the most? But right now, that 91 America has been pretty strong out there in front most of the race. Kind of got a little bit behind when he got ran into by Brady coming into pit road. But overall, it's been kind of the same group of people up towards the front for most of this race. So you're really starting to see who is comfortable being out front, who's kind of riding around. You see a little bit of a scrapage there. Jonathan got coming off into the safer barrier, coming off of 2, but didn't lose too much momentum, and he's still riding along. I can see there's Benjamin's kind of just riding around the bottom. That's one thing with these old Gen 4 cars, is you're not going to lose too much riding by yourself, but you're definitely going to be noticeable if you are not able to get into line. But see, Benjamin is holding strong down there at the bottom. He's not making up any ground. He's kind of staying steady at where he is, but everyone wanting to stay on the top line. Ooh, a little bit close to the wall there coming out the corner, but still keeping it good, keeping it clean. And one thing of the trends of the Cannonball iRacing series is, of the last 5 races here, 2 of them have ended under caution. And of the last 5, Merrick has come up short so many times, but is this the year where he finally gets it done? But so many other people want to get that win to start off the season strong. We see Scott diving out of the bottom. He says, I don't want to be following him anymore. I want that clean air. Kind of almost looks like they were maybe trying to swap a little bit, as Merrick trying to hold them down the bottom, not giving them too much momentum, trying to side wrap a little bit. See a few more people starting to go down to the bottom. Now we're kind of getting to a spot where maybe people are trying to get in a position. Trying to maybe position their cars. Maybe they can try to get a better situation when pit stops come, but maybe they're trying to utilize that draft of those lap cars that are out in front of them as well. I don't know, almost seemed like Scott kind of wanted to get out in front of Merrick. I don't know if maybe he was running a little bit too hot riding behind Merrick, or he just liked having Merrick behind him pushing him. But now with the lap cars at the bottom, that kind of forces all the leaders just to single file back to the top side. Now with this jumbo group and packets a little bit bigger, are people going to make those decisions to maybe try to use the lap cars to kind of get to back to the front. But are the lap cars now, are they going to maybe fight between each other too? Because if a caution does come out, whoever is in front of them, between those three, who will get that lucky dog pass? So if you're one of those lap cars, you maybe want to try to hop and get with one of those lead lap cars and maybe position yourself in a better spot to be in front of those other cars behind, just so you're not missing out on that potential of lucky dog if a caution does come out. See, Merrick dived down to the bottom. He's been a top runner the whole time, most of this race, and now finally drops down to the bottom. Kind of feel like he wants to be out in the lead group in the front of the line as he starts to dive back out to the lead in the top. A lot of swapping. This is what I've noticed throughout the races. You kind of see some people drop back, kind of like a roller coaster, kind of up and down. People go to the top, go down to the bottom. So it's interesting to see how you want to position yourself. With those lap cars on the bottom, it kind of forces you to be on the outside. See Merrick and Scott kind of dropping out of the bottom, kind of wanting to do away with the top line, but I see they're kind of going back and forth, kind of maybe using that banking to get a run down to the bottom, and they're kind of just riding that momentum down the backstretch. We see they're kind of diving in the bottom, kind of a late move, as we see Brennan almost kind of wanted to go drop down to the bottom and kind of checked everyone up. I don't know if that was just a late move or if that was planned by those three to dive down to the bottom. It was very close between those three. So far it's been green flag to green so far the whole time. No caution so far. Hopefully I don't jinx it, but it's been relatively a few incidents here and there, but it's been pretty clean. Really solid bump drafting throughout, and it's kind of hard still to pick a lane, what lane you want to be in towards the end of this race. So far everyone has kind of just followed whatever Merrick has been doing, and it seems like now everyone's kind of drifted towards the bottom. But with how bumpy it is, like a few people are still kind of riding that, just the car's width above that yellow line. So we should see, I know, with them kind of getting single file on the bottom, it almost looks like some people are maybe thinking about pitting, but I know it might be a little bit too close to maybe pit now. But are you willing to make that move? But so far they're still staying out, so it's going to be interesting to see who is able to say. We see Scott and Merrick really bump drafting. We're seeing a lot of contact between those two, using the bumpers, trying to not build a gap, but definitely trying to utilize them and kind of keep everyone behind them. So far they've been the two dynamic duos here at the front, being able to really work well with each other, as we see Merrick kind of drifting a little bit towards the bottom, almost kind of Scott kind of gradually followed him down there, but we see those two really being strong at the front. We see a top line starting to form up with the 74 back there of Tony. But we shall see if anyone's able to really utilize, as we see Kyle hop up behind Tony up there. But so far, Merrick and Scott have been the two dynamic duos trying to really hard to pass them right now. We see some people diving, that lead group diving down the pit road. We see a lockup. Oh no! Merrick with another mishap. Not really sure what happened there. Was kind of got distracted by James, who had a huge lockup coming into the pits. That's going to definitely hurt Merrick. That is a unsafe pit entrance, I believe. Getting pushed out wide. But now that's going to be a huge blow to this group. Kind of leaves that other group who we'll see how long they stay. They all come in together now. Oh, that's a speeding penalty for a couple of them. Definitely Kyle locked up, tried his best to come in, but just locked it up and slid a little bit too quick into pit road. And we see Michael kind of just skids through his box a little bit too and has to back up, go forward. You see Merrick finally getting up to speed too. He has Jack relatively close behind him, so we'll see if Jack is able to help him. But a huge blow to potentially the #1 contender of getting potentially the win. As we see Benjamin kind of slides off the track down there in the bottom. Looks like he might have some damage and the car is just almost undrivable. But now you have the two fastest cars connected together again. Oh, as Merrick gets into it. Well, I'm not sure what that was. Kind of hard to tell. Definitely going to go back and see what exactly happened. If that was just a bad push or what happened. Not really sure what happened there going into turn 1. I'm not sure if that was just a bad bump or what. It's kind of hard to tell, but we'll take a look from Jack's point of view. Not really sure. I mean, yeah, you don't want to bump drive going into the corner, which I don't know about that one. Yeah, but now it's kind of, the field is a little bit spread out because now you have, a few people just kind of spread out quite a bit because you have Kyle who's in the lead. You have Jonathan with him who's a lap down behind him, and you also have James who is potentially about to be a lap down, kind of working with Kyle. And then you have Brennan, Maurice, not that far behind him. Then you have Tony right there as well. But the top 3 is the top 3 getaway. But you kind of have now the lead group kind of trying to get together. Obviously you have the lap cars on the bottom and the top 3 in the top side. You have these top 3s now working together, and you have Merrick and Jack working together. And Merrick's still in 4th place, so he's not out of it yet. He just needs a caution. for it to all work out. Because they've got quite a big gap in between them. We go back to the top three. Just kind of now just riding. Now, as you as the top three, obviously there's a lap car. Now, if you're Maurice, you're kind of hoping the lap car goes with you if you make a move at the end of the race. But now with that, those kind of each pit road entry kind of had its own little problem there. But now with these top three cars, who is going to have the best position? Obviously, I like Maurice right now. You in third. If those top two start battling it side by side, you're going to get a huge run. So if I'm either of those three right now, I definitely want to be the 44 and Maurice in that Bud Chevrolet. But as he now gets kind of shuffled out behind, and now everyone wants to go around him on the outside, Tony definitely putting his car into position. Oh, and Tony gets into the wall. It's a little bit swirly. Maurice still holding it strong down there at the bottom. How the tables have turned again during pit stops, and now it's kind of created a situation where if you're not in the top three, you're definitely hoping for a caution. But if you're in the top three, you hope it goes to the end. So see, we're currently working lap 78 of 100. So you still have, about 22 laps to go. Does it stay green? If you're Kyle, Brennan, and Maurice, you're definitely hoping it goes to the end. You got the fuel to go to the end. You're not worried. You're just going with the flow. Right now, especially being in the top three, you weren't hopefully not pushing. You're kind of just riding with each other, kind of feeling each other out. Maybe see if you can get a little bit of a run, see where you can get the run to put yourself in that position. But overall, you're sitting pretty. You're not doing anything. One thing I will say is if you're Maurice, you're kind of hoping that the lap cars can kind of get out of the way. But right now, you're just riding. You're just hoping that it stays green. But what a tale of events this has become. From very dominant cars at the front to pit road mishaps. So now a 3-car breakaway with lap cars to see who is going to win the first race of the season at Daytona. Kind of saying the lap car is starting to form a group on the bottom. They definitely want to try to get in front of the leaders to, if anything happens, which I don't suspect there's going to be anything, just why would you, oh, kind of get squeezed into the wall. James kind of got squished up into the wall. It's going to create a little bit of a gap. Now it kind of pushes Maurice a little bit further back. Now there's a 2-car breakaway. as these front cars go along, you definitely just have Jack and Merrick kind of just riding along. They're like running their own race right now as they're coming out of turn 2. The leaders are going into the front stretch, so they're about a half a lap behind. So one thing with these Gen 4 cars is you start to look at all these different paint schemes, like Kyle, Maurice. I know Benjamin's got one out there. You have a lot of these like old style paint schemes that they used to run when these cars used to go. We see Tony get up into the wall again, trying to take advantage of that top lane a little bit too much. Brushes the wall, starts to drift back a little bit. It's gonna be hard for him to get back up to this lead group. As you saw the lead groups earlier when they were kind of oh no! Maurice kind of gets clipped by James a little bit. All of that momentum he had. We're just going to go back and just take a real quick look at what exactly happened. Maybe a misjudgment from James to see how he was going to go in there. It seemed like he was maybe going to give, Maurice just a little bit of a push, but got it all wrong. And now that allows the top 2 just to have a free lane and like nothing really to worry about. Now it's really going to be, who does Jonathan go to? Does Jonathan have a preference? Who he's going to push to the lead when it comes down to the last few laps as we're going from lap 84 to 85? I know we have like 15 more laps to go, but it's all about being patient. You're not trying to do too much. You're not trying to you have a huge lead. Kind of just riding along, hoping it stays green for the rest of the time. Because right now these top 2 are sitting with a pretty good substantial lead back to Maurice. We see these top 2 have kind of just settled in that top line, or has been a preferred line. But one thing I am starting to notice is there is a little bit of damage on Kyle's right front. Doesn't seem to be too bad, where Brennan has a pretty clean front end. Hopefully that damage to Kyle's right front doesn't affect him too much in a straight line speed. But it seemed to be a little bit of a thing with quite a few people in this race. There's some damage on the right front of quite a few cars. It's kind of just getting into either to the wall or kind of slightly brushing up against someone else. But so for these top 2 are kind of putting a little bit of a gap between Jonathan and them. So now it's going to come down to these top 2 to see who's going to have the better run. Obviously Brennan has a much better position, being in second place behind Kyle. So you always kind of want to be in front. Yeah, as a lead car, you can kind of throw a block, but if you throw the wrong block at the wrong time, it's going to spin you out. If I'm anyone, I want to be that person with the momentum, trying to put yourself in that position. Oh my goodness. not what Kyle or Brennan wanted to see. A caution has flown. Caution flag is out. Suspense. All that work, the caution comes out on lap 88. As we are going to go back and take a look exactly what happened. Kind of hard to see exactly what happened here, but it involved Merrick. They were riding along the backstretch. Not sure if they expected kind of just, oh, what a, I'm not really sure what exactly happened there. See him catching him. I'm not sure if he's just catching him with such great speed he wasn't sure where he was going to go. But that's now twice we've seen Merrick kind of run in the back of someone. I'm not sure if he just kind of like, it almost seems like he expected Benjamin to stay, kind of go to the top, allow him to go to the bottom, but it's hard to say exactly what they were going through. But that obviously put everyone in this predicament of, obviously with how very little cars in the pit road and how very little cars left in the race, you're obviously going to pit. But does someone stay out who has enough fuel to get to the end? Yeah, we shall see. Now, I fully expect the top two, I mean, they might stay out, they might pit, who knows. I think Merrick, who's potentially still on the lead lap, could come in, do a quick pit stop. So we shall see how everyone pans out with pitting. Obviously, we don't have too many cars left on the lead lap, or even left in the race too. I know we've lost quite a few people. I know we've lost Brady, Nicholas, Jake, Tyler, Scott, and I believe Tony might or might not be still in the race, but we're definitely down to the last bits of this race. We have, we're on lap 89 right now. Once we start to go green, be pretty close to about 92, around there, lap 92. So we're gonna have about 6 to 8 laps around there to go green. So now we're about to see who is going to come into pit lane entrance, as we see the top two coming into pit lane now. It's going to be interesting to see how it cycles all the way through. You see Brennan taking tires, Kyle is taking tires, the left sides are going on now as well. You see Merrick kind of slid through his box. You have to see he's probably going to have some damage repaired as well. You see Kyle kind of spending a little bit extra time in the box where Brennan is already out, so interesting to see if maybe he's getting some damage fixed, because he had a little bit of damage on that right front with how very little cars there are on the lead lap. It's not going to hurt you too much, but now that gives Brennan the lead. See those three cars that are in front of her, they're probably going to want to get the wave around if they can. But what an event that was. Now the first caution of the race comes in at about 87. That's going to bunch the group back up together. Now those of them that kind of got off that lead group and messed up their pit stops, that allows them to get back up to the front. It kind of settles everything back, wipes everything clean. Everything you did before this moment does not matter. You led some laps before, you had a lead, doesn't matter. So as they allow those cars to drive past the pace car, now, do you, as the front two, obviously Kyle and Brennan were out there in the front, in the lead. Do you continue to stay or work together, or does your partnership you had at this whole race kind of go out the window? So everyone knows that 91 car is fast, so this allows him to get back up there. But who is going to work with who? This is where you've worked the whole race to see who you work well with, who doesn't work well with you, or who you don't want to work with. All brings it together. You know, who are you willing to trust the most? That's what it's going to come down to. How well do you get off this green flag? So the lights on the pace car are out. This is going to be the first start since we dropped the green flag. Obviously this first caution, kind of controversial, but you know, we'll leave it off the side. Overall, it's been a really good race to see how everyone has not pushed too much, but you can definitely going to watch and see here with the laps dwindling down as you go from 91 to lap 92. We're going to have an 8-lap shootout to the end to see who is going to have the best start to their season. It's interesting to see who's going to have the start that they wanted to. As we see them start to creep into the zone, the green flag waves, kind of leaves Brennan out on the outside by himself. Interesting how with the wave rounds and everyone kind of pitting like that, you see the top group starting to go. Who is going to go with who? Do you want to stick to the top, which has been a pretty dominant line the whole time, or do you want to stick to the bottom? Want to see Kyle kind of working his way. Maybe him try. Oh, as they get together, Kyle into the top. See Merrick go through the middle. Oh no. Barely made it a lap. What an unfortunate event for Kyle, who had a very good shot at potentially winning this thing. We're going to go back and just see exactly what happened. I know he was kind of floating a little bit in between the top and the bottom. Kind of threw a little bit of a late grill. Almost looked like Rooster kind of got in the back of Brennan, which shot him into the back of Kyle. Could be it. Yeah, that's really hard to see. But there was potentially the move of the race from Merrick. You can go to see here, go to the nose cam as he comes off the top. See him just kind of riding along, comes off the top. Kind of sees that middle lineup, you kind of see everyone check up, and everyone just kind of this calamity corner there. Merrick with potentially the move of the race, sneaking through there in the middle. So now, as we've reset, when they go back to green, potentially with less than 5 laps to go. And with that caution, Rooster is going to be given an EOL for his getting in the back of Brendan, which got in the back of Kyle. So Rooster is going to be starting at the tail end of the longest line, which I know he is a lap down, so it's not that big of a deal, but he was still hoping to potentially get up to the front and maybe get one of his last back as Merrick dives back into the pits. Interesting call here. Maybe he has a little bit extra damage. I know he has a little bit of damage on the front end when he got into the back of someone earlier. But gonna come in, get that damage worked on. Kyle's car definitely needs a little bit of work done too. That car just looked beaten up. He definitely got the rough end of the stick from that one. He a really good strong car, definitely up there towards the front most of the time. Him and Brendan with that 2-car breakaway really kind of foiled his plans of potentially getting a really good finish, really. But overall, kind of with all that pitting now, it bleeds Brendan up to the front. Going to be interested to see, with 4 laps to go, once we go back to going green, at how aggressive everyone will be. As we even just saw there, pushing, bumping. With the very limited time that they've had, they haven't really been too aggressive at all this race. But to see how close they all got there, it's going to be interesting to see who is going to want it the most. We know Merrick has been strong. He's been able to fight his way to the front and stick at the front. But there's some people who are now up towards the front who have kind of just been lingering around when the race started. They were kind of the middle towards the end. You know, this is the moment that they were all waiting for, to be up here at the front towards the end. As you see, Kyle is still on pit road, unfortunately, getting all that. So is Merrick is still on pit road too. They're probably waiting until the last moment, trying to get as much. As you see, Merrick starting to peel off there now too. Unfortunate for Kyle. He definitely had a really strong car today. We see them start to go up. He still has quite a bit of damage, but you see the pace cars coming across. They definitely were trying to get as much damage as they could fixed. But as you see, the lights on the pace car are out now. It's going to be a shootout to the end. Who is going to write their ticket and have the best start you can have in the season? To start off with a win, you know, that gives your hopes up. Yes, it's a super speedway. Yes, everyone has a chance, right? That's one thing with super speedway racing, is that no one is faster than the other person. Really, it's all about speed, how fast your car is, luck. Definitely a lot of luck. You need a lot of luck to put yourself in position for the final stretch of the race. Well, overall, it's been pretty good. Yeah, we've had a couple cautions, you know, within the last few laps, but the race has been pretty clean. Yeah, you've had a couple incidents here and there, but mainly all the incidents that have happened besides the last few cautions have all been mental mistakes, from going into pit road, missing your marks, kind of just not being fully aware of where your braking marker needs to be, all of this stuff too. So overall, you see Merrick starting to slide up there to the bottom lane. Even with, that's the one thing with all these lap cars, is it kind of, even with him being in the pit road for so long, that kind of puts him in a position where now he is in prime position as we see the pace car about to duck off. We go about to start lap 96. Green flag is in the air. Brennan gets out to a pretty good jump. Maybe he's a little bit too far out. That's going to allow the cars behind him to get a pretty good run of momentum. As we see Jonathan right behind Merrick on that bottom line. Going to have a huge, we see Brendan hop up to the outside. We see a huge surge from Merrick on the bottom. Jonathan really pushing him off into the end of the corner. Brendan just had zero help. He was kind of just hoping that that bottom lane momentum would die out, but it's been pretty good right now with Merrick on the bottom line. I know he's been happy with the outside. We see a Brennan with a huge run coming back on that outside. I know Jonathan is a bit of is the lap car helping him, that kind of gives him a buffer, but really the top three are Merrick, Brennan, and Maurice. Those are your three cars fighting for the win. The other cars around them are all lap cars. You see the bump from Maurice onto Brennan, kind of see that surge to the front. You're going to see that momentum. But then you see that bottom line start to creep a little more because Jonathan and Merrick are more synchronized, or keeping their cars a lot tighter to one another. And Jonathan is really pushing hard on Merrick, trying to keep him out there in the front. But Brennan and Maurice are still fighting strong on that outside, as you see Brennan trying to creep down a little bit, maybe not trying to get that side draft just yet. You see him now starting to go down there, trying to get that side draft, trying to pull them back to you. But you see Merrick now getting out front. He's now clear. But Brennan gets that run on the outside to block him off. You need to see that drafting and the bump drafting from Jonathan to push Merrick a little bit further. With 7 laps to go, it's starting to heat up now at the front. The bump drafts are starting to get a little bit more aggressive. Who are you willing to have behind you? Obviously, we know Merrick's car is fast. Even with the damage, it's still being able to be out there in front. Brennan and Maurice fighting strong on that outside, though. See a huge surge from Brennan and Maurice getting out there in front. Kind of surging ahead, using that outside momentum. Now, if you are Merrick, you kind of just are hoping that it stays like this. Maybe get a huge run of momentum. That's what you need to be able to get past this, because Maurice and Brennan are really strong in that outside lane. We have now lap 100. White flag is in the air. Merrick with a huge run on the bottom. Gets up. Huge run. Gets all the way out to the lead. Leaves Brennan and Maurice on the top side, all alone. See Merrick starting to block. He's able to get up in front of Brennan. Brennan gives them a huge shove. Maurice, is he going to shoot the gap? Oh my God, a little bit of a touch. Kind of leaves Brennan. Oh, Merrick, watch where it comes off a 4. Going to get the win. Absolute masterclass of defending and blocking. Absolute great job to all of them by keeping it clean. As your running order, you had Merrick came home in first, Maurice in second, and Brennan, who had the chance to do it. Merrick Watchhorn Just absolutely masterclass of how to defend there at the end. Finally gets it done. This is the 5th season of running his own league, and he finally gets it done. 4 previous attempts came up short. A little bit of a bump there from Jack, but finally gets it done. In the 5th try of winning the Daytona, first race of the season, he finally gets it done. As we see him burn it down, we are going to go back and watch the finish. That was an absolute amazing run to the finish. I'm just going to watch it in from the backstretch on the chopper view just to see how close it was. We see the Merrick on the outside, definitely keeping, you see them kind of getting a little bit of a touch. But that little bit of a touch right there, Brendan did a great job of great car control, holding it together. But that little bit of a slip up allowed Merrick to kind of keep that gap. And Jonathan, as a lap car, was able to get that little buffer between them. And Merrick was able to keep it strong from there. What an absolute finish of a race. Well, we hope you enjoyed all of that from start to finish. Absolutely wonderful, for everyone here at at Cannonball. It was a fantastic race from start to finish. Hope you all enjoyed as Merrick finishes up his celebrations. We know that he spent some time in that infield grass earlier with the pit stop mistake, but now he gets to celebrate in the infield now too. Thank you all for watching as he blows it. But thank you all for watching. Thank you all. Have a great night. We all hope to see you next time.